As it's 2 p.m., I will call the meeting of the Board of Elections, regular meeting for March 19, 2024, and I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Chairwoman Johnson, Vice Chairman DeSimone,
Present.
Member Bettenker,
Here.
Member Connors,
Present.
Member Jack Foley, Member Madeira, Member Jones, Executive Director Miguel Nunez,
Present.
Legal Counsel Raymond Carchio.
Present.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Item number 1, the board will discuss and vote on the recommendations proposed by the Legislative Committee on legislation submitted by other persons and entities to the General Assembly in 2024, as described in the attached legislative summary. And I will actually turn it over at this point for a report from Commissioner Bettenker, the chair of the subcommittee.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So in our legislative subcommittee, we looked at 7 pieces of legislation. And I think we voted it as a slate last time for oppose and support. Do you remember? Yes?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Great. Unless I know there might be some questions, maybe we'll go, if we want to vote on support of, if we want to discuss and vote the recommendation to vote on the piece of legislation that the subcommittee supported, which is Bill 7664 by Representative Speakman. So only one piece of legislation had the subcommittee full support. Do we have a motion to support or oppose?
So Ray, should we handle these individually?
Yes, you should. You should handle each of these.
Each one
I believe there
Oh,
were
okay.
just 7
There were just
pieces,
7, yep.
so.
Okay.
Now, if each
There's
of the
8.
pieces, if each of the pieces, other pieces will be rejected.
Well, some of them we're taking no position on. I think there was only one that we moved to oppose.
Then I think,
right?
Mr. Chair, you should go through each of them, especially
There are
since
8. Yeah, thank you.
the agenda just references the attached legislation. So I think to give it some identification, you should
Okay.
add in a
Thank
vote
you.
for each.
Yeah.
Okay,
and-
so with regard to House 7664, that's the one, Commissioner Bettenker, that we agreed to
Correct.
support?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, so that was a submission of support by the
By the
subcommittee.
Correct.
Is there a motion with regard to that bill?
I'll make a motion that the full board supports the House Bill 7664.
Does anyone have any comments? Oh, I can't do that. Sorry. I was in mode. My bad. Sorry. Woo. Wow. Do you want to hear what the bill is about? Absolutely. So this piece of legislation was introduced by Secretary of State and the Executive Director in Canada. So this would be to provide a process for local canvassing clerks in case there is any patterns of forgery. It also allows for more time for the Board of Elections to review any challenges to the nomination papers that we may have, which we've seen in the past. So it allows us for more administrative time. And it was supported by the staff as well.
Additionally, I think there was some language in it, Commissioner, last time that was of concern because it asked for rules and regulations to be submitted under the Administrative Procedures Act. They removed that from the bill. They did. They removed that from the bill. Based upon that, I think the subcommittee then voted to support. So is there a second on Commissioner Connor's motion to support?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. There's no more discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Guys have it.
The
Any
next-
nays?
Oh.
No.
The next bill is 7765 by Representative Nardone. And so this would require that any building, including nursing homes and other buildings that get any type of federal funding, any government funding, local, state, or federal, would place, and I quote, a conspicuous post notice that political candidates and their agents are not permitted to solicit residents. And so after discussion, the staff took no position. And I don't want to speak for the other board members, but what I recall from our meeting is we don't believe that this is something that we need to, as a board, we need to take a position on. So that was our recommendation.
Is there a motion with regard to item 7765?
I move to support the subcommittee's recommendation to not have a position.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Motion passes.
7766 by Representative Place would redefine political party, and so it would make a distinction between major and minor parties based on the total percentages that they're able to get. The staff had, their recommendation was to not have a position on this piece of legislation, and at the time, the subcommittee voted to also have no position on this piece of legislation.
Is there a motion on House 7766?
I did have a question before I make a motion. At the subcommittee, I was wondering if the Secretary of State's office had any position on this bill.
Thank you, Commissioner. So the Secretary, we really don't have a position on the bill. However, the Secretary always supports making it easier for people to vote and to run for office, and that's what this bill does. However, the most important thing from our office is administratively, we're able to make the update. It would become much easier to create a recognized political party, which means we'd have to update the voter registration system, which now that we have a new system in place, it's a lot easier to do that. So administratively, we have no concerns with the bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So is there any motion with regard to 7766?
I'll make a motion that the board takes no position as well.
I'll second that.
So there's a motion and a second. If there's no discussion, we'll call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
The next piece of legislation is 7847 by Representative Newberry. And this would, we heard some of the recommendations by Rick Thornton from the Board of Elections. This would modify how much a political action committee can provide, can give to itself, to candidates. And so what we noted is that there would be a conflict with federal limits. So the committee voted to oppose this legislation as it is, but to send language to Representative Newberry around it, highlighting the issues that we find with this piece of legislation, so that he may be able to correct it or make any amendments that he'd like.
So is there a motion to support the subcommittee's opposition to this bill?
So moved.
Second.
So there's a motion and a second, and the opposition based upon the fact that it's in conflict with other Rhode Island campaign finance laws, and we would let the sponsor know that.
Correct.
I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
7848, it would, sorry, this would mandate, it would no longer mandate that local boards of canvassers go to high schools to do registration drives. Instead, it would, so it wouldn't be a mandate. And the committee voted to oppose this piece of legislation.
So is there a motion with regard to House 7848? Is there a second?
Second.
So there's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
7850 would establish, it would partly establish Election Day as a special observation day, but it also would restrict the use of mail ballots. And it, as it was explained by our executive director, it would roll back a lot of the legislation and work that was done with letter I vote. So the subcommittee voted to oppose this piece of legislation, as did the staff.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So there's a motion to concur with the subcommittee's opposition to this bill. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
8017 by Representative Quattrocchi. It would be a resolution that would propose that voters, it's a joint resolution to make a constitutional amendment which would provide that a person that is not a U.S. citizen is never allowed to vote in the state. And the subcommittee voted to have no position on this piece of legislation.
And that was based upon the representation that that's already a condition of registration.
Correct.
Is there a motion?
So moved. I move to support the position of the subcommittee.
I'll second.
So actually, it's a motion to take no
To-
position?
to no
Is that what it
position,
was?
yep.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
8046 by Representative Felix would allow citizens of any city and town that are at least 16 years old to vote in school committee elections in municipalities. And the subcommittee voted to have no position in this piece of legislation.
This is a bill that was before us
Last year.
Last year, and I believe that we took no position on it last year. So is there a motion with regard to the subcommittee's recommendation for no position?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 2, the board may discuss and vote to certify the logic and accuracy testing for the presidential preference primary voting equipment to be held Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024, and I will turn it over to Director Nunez.
Members of the board, logic and accuracy testing of the election day voting equipment for the presidential preference primary began on March 6th at 8 a.m. and concluded the afternoon of March 8th. The testing was open to the public, and 7 ES&S and 7 Board of Election staff were involved in that testing. A total of 252 DS200s were tested as part of the LNA testing. 109 precincts on April 2nd will receive 1 DS200. 70 precincts will receive 2 DS200s, and 1 precinct will receive 3 DS200s. A total of 180 express votes were tested as part of the test as well. Each precinct will receive 1 express vote on April 2nd. As part of this test, 8 Democrat ballots and 12 Republican ballots for a total 20 test deck ballots were fed through each DS200 for a total of 5,040 ballots. For mail ballots, 2 DS850 high-speed tabulators were tested, 8 ballots, Democratic ballots, and 12 Republican ballots per ballot style, and there are 4 different ballot styles, for a total of 2,080 test deck ballots that were fed through the DS850s. In summary, a total of 7,120 test ballots were used during this logic and accuracy testing. 4 DS200 units were replaced due to modem issues. 0 express vote units were replaced during the testing. The Secretary of State's Elections Division conducted a review of the express vote ballot information, and on March 4th, they certified to us that the information is accurate per our protocol. The staff will be delivering through our mover the the voting equipment and supplies starting Friday, March 22nd, and will conclude on Monday, April 1st. ES&S has provided 3 reports for this testing. The first report is prior to testing. The second report shows you the results from the test deck of ballots that has been compared to the key, which you also have, which shows what the results should be. These results do match. The third report shows that each DS200 has been reset to 0 and are now ready for operation on April 2nd. At this time, if you have no questions, I ask that you certify the voting equipment for the presidential preference primary to be held on April 2nd.
Any questions with regard to item 2 for the director?
We certify.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 3, the board may discuss and vote to certify the recognition of the no labels RI party under Rhode Island General Laws 17-1-2 subsection 9. And I don't, is it the executive director or legal counsel? Are you going to speak on it?
I will start, and if Ray wants to add anything after. On August 9th, 2023, the No Labels Rhode Island Party submitted their request for political party petition recognition forms, which is required under Rhode Island General Law 17-12-16. Party recognition is also covered under Rhode Island General Law 17-1-2, Section 9, which requires any political organization seeking status as an officially recognized party to either have a candidate obtain 5% of the total votes cast in a presidential or gubernatorial election, or gather signatures equaling 5% of the total votes cast in those elections. The No Labels Rhode Island Party needed to gather 17,884 valid signatures, which is 5% of the 357,670 votes cast for governor in the 2022 general election. Petitions were submitted to the boards of canvassers across the state for validation beginning the last week in December of last year. The local boards completed the validation and certification of those petitions by March 12th, 2024. A total of 32,601 signatures were submitted to the local boards, with Providence receiving the most signatures with 7,224 and New Durham receiving the fewest with 16. A total of 20,267 signatures were approved by the local boards, exceeding the number of signatures required by 2,383. If the board certifies the recognition of the No Labels Rhode Island Party today, board regulations require that new forms containing the new party be used within 60 days, while old forms may continue to be used for 90 days. We anticipate our voter registration form to be updated in English and Spanish before that deadline. However, necessary changes must be made within the central voter registration system so local boards can process the voter registrations containing the new party. The staff will work with the Secretary of State to implement the change in the CVRS on the online voter registration portal and the Department of Motor Vehicles, as well as the other voter registration agencies. Finally, our campaign finance division will reach out to the No Labels Party to discuss their filing requirements as an officially recognized political party within the state. This completes my report on the party recognition request by the No Labels Rhode Island Party, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? So I think I got confused when you said that. So said that based on this, within 60 days, we have to develop a new form, but we can use an old form for up to 90 days?
Correct.
Okay. Does that include, but that doesn't include what is used with the CRV, but yes, with DMV and stuff like that?
So
DMV has to
if
be
my
updated
memory serves me correctly, that is in the regulation primarily because prior to online voter registration and DMV registration being the primary method for registration, we used to have thousands and tens of thousands of paper forms in our inventory. And to mitigate having to throw those all out, we would allow, the board in the past has allowed those to be used for a longer period of time. So that's where that 90-day rule originated.
Thank you.
I have one question, Miguel. Since No Labels is going to be qualified as a party, what is the filing deadline by which they have to appoint the candidate for president and vice president?
That is a question for the Secretary of State's Elections Division, but that would be the normal declaration period that would be in June. That any candidate not filing under, that any candidate filing under this status would be required to file under. So you may have various candidates who are that would be on the ballot under different labels, different names, and based on my discussions in the past with the Secretary of State Division, they would fall under those requirements.
Ray, before we vote, are any issues on this? I know you've reviewed it extensively.
I did, and I've shared those comments with you for your own consumption, not for the open meeting.
Right.
but I have no other comments to make at this time.
So is there a motion to certify the recognition of the No Labels RI Party?
Vice Chair, are we witnesses here? Want to talk about this?
We do have the chair of the party here and legal counsel as well.
Justice Flanders, do you have any comments you wish to share, or are you okay with the vote to proceed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mercaccio. I have no comments to share. I'm here to answer any questions that may be raised by the board, but other than that, I'm ready for the board to proceed.
Any members have any questions of Justice Flanders?
Oh, they qualify by the number of signatures, that's sufficient.
I mean, they're significantly over the number of signatures, so. Is there a motion?
I move that we certify no labels as a party.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations. Item number 4, the board may discuss and vote to approve the calendar for the South Kingstown School Bond Referendum to be held on Tuesday, May 7th, 2024.
On March 11th, the South Kingstown Town Council approved the resolution to request the Secretary of State place a bond question on the ballot to be voted on in a Title 17 special referendum to be held on May 7th, 2024. The South Kingstown Board of Canvassers subsequently certified the question to the Secretary of State's office on March 12th. The staff and the South Kingstown Board of Canvassers agree on the draft calendar presented to you today. The ballot question to be presented to voters on May 7th is for issuing $150 million in bonds and notes for the construction and equipping of a new high school athletic facility and other school facilities. House Bill 7039 and Senate Bill 2091 authorizing the special referendum passed the General Assembly and were signed by the governor on March 14th. If the board does not have any questions regarding the draft calendar, the staff requests that the calendar be approved for the special referendum election to be held in the town of South Kingstown on May 7th, 2024.
Any questions from the board members?
So move.
Second.
There's a motion to approve. There's a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 5, the board may discuss and vote on the polling locations to be used in the South Kingstown School Bond Referendum to be held Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. Director Nunes.
As you can see, we have a tight timeline with these special referendums. So we're approving the polls on the same day as we're approving the calendar. But the General Assembly did just authorize those bills. So on March 12th, the South Kingstown Board of Canvassers met to discuss and select the polling locations for their May 7th, 2024 special school bond referendum, which you just approved the calendar for. The Board of Elections staff received their request on March 13th. The South Kingstown Board unanimously voted to open 4 polling locations townwide. The town of South Kingstown is comprised of 11 precincts and has a total of 21,808 registered voters. The number of registered voters per combined precinct before you would range from 4,730 at the Community Recreation Center Gymnasium or 6,267 voters at the New Life Assembly. The anticipated turnout for this referendum is likely to be approximately 30%, which would be similar to a special referendum held in South Kingstown in 2021 when 4 polling locations were also opened in the town. Schools will be in session that day, so you'll note that there are no school locations being utilized for that reason. The Board of Canvassers is required to post an ad in the newspaper regarding the combination of polls and will also post a notice on any polling location not opened on May 7th, which will direct voters to the correct polling location that day. The Board of Canvassers will increase staffing as necessary at each of the open locations and will make appropriate arrangements to ensure efficient processing of voters in and out of the buildings. We will supply each location with additional voting equipment to ensure that each location is operating smoothly. The Board of Election staff have reviewed their requests, and based on the even distribution of locations and the combined locations across the town, the staff agrees with these selections and asks that you approve them. The Board of Canvassers is also here today if you have any questions regarding their requests.
Any questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, one question. You noted school is in session and that no schools were pulling places, but I do see Curtis Corner Middle School. Is that?
Oh.
No, not yet. Try it again.
There you
go.
There we go. I'm Susan Flynn, I'm the town clerk in South Kingstown and also the clerk to the Board of Canvassers. The Curtis Corner Middle School has been discontinued for use as a middle school this year. It is still operational, and the facilities director for the school department has assured me that it is in perfect operation to be used as a polling location for that day. It is one of our approved polling locations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the twist, yes.
Yes. We tried to get them to 3 polling locations, but they wanted to spread it out a bit more and have 4.
Very good. Make a motion to approve
Second.
the polling place.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. And I believe that concludes the calendar. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. We're adjourned.
David,
Thank you.
go.
This is sweet.
Quickest
We're adjourned.
meeting we've ever had.
Man up.